In the desert oasis where stories ignite, Skip's little bar, a beacon of light. From the Coachella Valley stars to cool everyday Joes, join Patrick and Randy, let the stories flow. At Big Conversations Little Bar, the magic spreads near and far. Backed by the McCallum Theater's grace, celebrate the voices that shape this place.
From the coveted corner booth in a little bar at the center of the Coachella Valley universe, welcome to another Big Conversation with Patrick Evans and Randy Florence, presented by the McCallum Theater. Visit McCallumTheater.org or reach the box office at 760-340-2787. Gentlemen.
Howard, thank you very much. We are here at the corner booth. It's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California, doing another edition of Big Conversations Little Bar. I'm joined, as I always am, by the most trustworthy sidekick in the business,
Robin.
Robin. No, you're not Robin. You're too tall to be Robin.
Oh, that's true.
Randy Florence, you're back again.
I'm back again. You let me back in.
Still haven't had enough of this.
No. I don't really have anywhere else to go.
It's like you made a New Year's resolution to show up and do a podcast. It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
You got to do it twice a week now.
Sorry.
Delighted to have you guys with us. Once again, we want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, the McCallum Theater. Tickets on sale right now at McCallumTheater.org. And by the way, if you think you know what's going on this season, you've seen the brochure, check back. They're always adding shows. They are always putting on new and innovative programming. And you should also check out what they're doing in their education department, because it's really remarkable. School year is in full swing, and they're bringing in students by the busload and, showcasing the arts to these kids who otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity. So our McCallum Theater, big thank you to you guys. How are you?
We love the McCallum Theater.
We do.
I don't think we can mention the McCallum Theater's name. Did I say theater again?
You just fell back on.
I actually referred to
your
one of my
Fresno
rehearsals as practice again the other night. Well, I don't even know if I had a card, they would have already taken it away.
You are a reluctant thespian.
I am.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We got another great guest. He was preceded on the program by his lovely and much better half, Barbara.
Yeah.
But Joe, actually having sat through his wife's podcast, decided to come in anyway.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty remarkable.
I noticed
shows
that
great bravery.
She's not here for his.
No, she did not know. There was no reciprocity. She's like, I did that. I'm not doing that.
Well, I have short-term memory, so I've forgotten that completely.
You forgot?
I can't remember that I was here.
I think Barbara had a great time.
She did have a good time.
And we had a great time with her. She, you and I have had lunch a few times over the years, and I don't know Barbara as well as I know you, but she's got a fascinating back. Let's just talk about Barbara for this.
Absolutely. I tell you, she is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm happy to say it. Yeah, she makes me a better person. Hard
I'm
to believe.
assuming you think she listens to this.
She might listen to Joe.
I will let her listen to this
to
portion.
that part.
Joe told me that he listens to the first 4 or 5 minutes of every podcast, then he nods off.
Once he hears Howard being recognized,
right.
and it's all over.
That's like Rick Steves on PBS. That puts me to sleep.
And how long have you and Barbara been together?
We have been together since, before 1991 is when we got married. But we were together a little bit before that. And we met at an event where Debbie Reynolds, if I'll drop a few names.
By all means.
She was there, and she was at a competing station. I was there because I was at another station, and you get invited to these things, which is very nice, and Debbie Reynolds was there, and so why wouldn't you go? So I think it probably is the first time that I asked a woman for her phone number.
Seriously?
Seriously. And I did. And so it so happened that after that, the bosses who owned my station, we needed a replacement for one of the anchors. And I said, I think Barbara is between engagements. And so I fanned out and actually contacted her. She was out on a boat and told her that Bill Putnam, who owned the station, wanted to talk to her about a job there.
So wait a minute. You met her
Yes.
found her attractive, asked for her phone number,
Right.
but then did not call her for a date. You called her to offer her a job.
No. There was.
Well,
I'm
the
leaping
date-
ahead.
Okay.
We call that advancing the story.
I understand.
you insiders.
I know. We have terms for everything.
Well, let's advance the podcast.
Yes.
I think we're doing it.
Oh,
Did you get the list of questions that I approved of? Or
we did
that work?
Yeah.
I left
Randy
them
and I
somewhere,
smoked
but-
it just before you got here. It was delightful.
Okay. Well,
We're going to talk a lot about recent history with you, but I want to go all
Way
the way
back?
back. I want to find out all about you.
oh,
Where are you from?
Massachusetts. I mentioned somebody had mentioned they were from the Northeast. I know you're not.
No, he's from the Northwest.
Yeah, somebody mentioned I was from the
I was
Northeast,
joking,
but I'm
I was
not.
being from the Northeast.
Have
I'm
you got
from the
something
Northeast
against the
part of-
Northeast?
No,
No.
nothing at
okay.
all. But just
They're a different breed. Let's be honest.
It is
People
true.
from the
I mean, I grew up
Northeast.
on the East Coast, but not the Northeast. We were
Okay.
firmly
You
below
made
the
fun of
Mason-Dixon
people
line.
in the Northeast.
We still do. My people are from Jersey. We make fun of them too.
I
not
have
to their
friends
face.
in the Northeast. I promise, I do. Like RFK Jr.
Awesome.
He's coming to town for a gala that I'm emceeing.
Is that for the polio organization?
It is no, but it will be. I
There didn't
I did
need
not
to be
say
one
that.
before.
We
Now
are not
there does.
We're not
Right.
not a political podcast. Not a political. Actually, I'm really looking forward to interviewing his wife, Cheryl Hines.
I have interviewed her.
She's
very nice.
She's very nice.
Very nice.
I have never interviewed her. We've crossed paths briefly once at something, and I always loved her.
Wait,
she was the only
is
thing
she
I liked
related?
about what's his name show.
Is she related?
Cheryl Hines is married to RFK.
Yes.
Oh,
Their husband and wife.
Okay, so is she related to the Hines that?
No, she's the actress that was in Larry David's TV show.
Oh,
Curb
Are you
Your
thinking of
Enthusiasm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
57
She was-
Varieties?
She was the wife.
I'm thinking of the.
No, that's
John Kerry.
John Kerry's married to Teresa Hines.
Yeah.
I feel like
I
we've
just
gotten
didn't know.
way
Did-
off center.
did-
here.
did they know
I'd
each
like
other?
to
Joe,
bring
thank
this
you for
back
coming in.
Can we bring this
we really
back?
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Howard.
Apparently, the conversation's
look at the
not going to
time.
be about you. No.
Sorry.
So, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, Springfield, West Springfield.
Yeah.
And so that's where I grew up, and at early age, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I was sitting in class, and I used to get complaints from the teachers about daydreaming, because I think for the most part I was kind of bored and looked out the window and thought, well, I don't want to be here. I'd like to be there. And we had a mission. One of the teachers at junior high said, I want everybody in this class to write a letter to a business that you want to know more about. So I wrote to Bill Putnam, who owned the TV station, WWLP. And so I got a letter back. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So I asked my father to take me to the station. I didn't have a license. The station was located on Proven Mountain in Agawam. And not like the mountains here, but a pretty steep mountain nonetheless. He physically built the station. A cinder block building,
Wow.
not very attractive. But we started driving up there, and my father said, you know what, I don't think that I can, I don't think I want to drive the rest of it. Because
It was
the
that
road,
steep?
It was that steep. So I said, I'll get out, I'll walk. So
You were serious.
I was serious.
Yeah.
I had that letter. I'm serious. So I start walking up. A car pulls up, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I introduced myself, and he remembered. It was Bill Putnam in the car driving. Remembered my letter, and he said, "Get in. I'll take you to the station."
Wow.
So he takes me
And
up
it
there.
turned out to be Bill Putnam.
Yeah. So I get up there, he introduces me to people, and then it was a case of, all right, from now on, I've got to figure out a way to keep going back. And then I enlisted my sister, who was older than I was, and she had a license. And so she would take me, again, to a certain point, and then I would walk up. But then I remember it was on Good Friday. And I'd been going up there and just hanging out and listening and watching and learning. And the program director said, we can't have you just hanging around because of insurance. And I'm thinking, what? Why does that matter? So I was crushed. I mean, I was devastated. But so then they called me and they asked if I would help with the program that they were doing at the bowling alley in Chicopee, Mass. True story. They were recording a bowling show. Then they brought the cameras into the coffee shop where they did a talent show. I was in charge of the lighting. I had 2 scoops, the big scoops, and a spotlight. That's all I had to do.
That's it.
Well, it depended on the act.
Yeah.
If it were more than 2 people, I used the scoops. If it was 1, I just had the spotlight on them.
And how old were you? You weren't even driving.
I wasn't driving. I was maybe by this time 15, And so, time goes by, and they keep asking me to come back and help. They did a kind of an American Bandstand thing on Saturdays, and so I floor directed that.
Were they paying you yet?
No.
Oh, so they asked you back to do a lot of things.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that, but I do remember they invited me to the Christmas party, and Bill Putnam was the kind of guy who was so helpful to friends. There was a guy that he knew in Vermont that owned a table company, and the guy would make tables out of logs and stuff. And so, as a Christmas gift to everybody, he gave these people stools, handmade. So he gave me one.
Wow.
And underneath was a $20 bill.
Wow.
And I thought, it doesn't get better. It just doesn't get better.
Yeah.
So, but what I learned from all of that, at least from broadcasting, his mantra was, if you do right by the community, they'll do right by you, rather than, how much money can we make? I mean, that's important, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
So great lessons I learned from that.
Yeah. How did the family feel about the path you were taking?
They were happy. I mean, I created this little studio in the basement, made my own camera out of a cardboard box, and used the toilet paper tubes for the lenses, which you couldn't see anything through the camera.
But it looked good.
I don't know. I think a lot of television is shot that way these days.
There's going to be more of it in the future, I think.
Yeah. But then
literally a shit show. Let's move on.
But with this little station I had, storm windows. I painted one side so that you could write on the other side for weather.
Nice.
I thought so too. Yeah. So, it was just kind of growing up, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I got to do it.
And he got a stool out of the deal too, so he had a place to sit in the studio, which worked out.
$20 bill.
That's a $20 bill. No, that's it. I think I started in television shortly. I was old enough to drive, and I got a part-time job at a TV station. And once you are in that environment, it gets into your skin, into your blood.
It's
you have to be.
infectious.
It is. Yeah.
I don't think
and many
I've ever-
people are in the business also, but that's a different story.
Infected. I don't think I've ever told this story, but I actually hosted a TV show when I was in high school, when community cable was first new. Gill Cable up in the Bay Area, and it was a high school show. But I actually got to interview George Haynes, who was the U.S. Olympic swimming coach back then, because he was in Santa Clara, California. That show lasted 3 episodes.
Congratulations. That's longer than your first podcast.
Well, I was asked to leave after the first episode, but they hadn't found anybody for the next 2. So
But I
know everything about television.
It's like, but this is fun.
I was taking a sip there. It is fun. It's a great environment, and being around those people, it becomes just kind of part of your persona.
It is, and it was, and it gives you an opportunity to learn not just one aspect of it, because I don't know of another industry where it is really a team effort, because you cannot do it alone.
Yeah.
You know, so from directing and producing, and that's what I started doing. And I found that fascinating. And then there was, by this time, I was out of the Army, and I went to a station that Bill Putnam owned in Dayton, Ohio.
Wait, let's go back to the Army part. You were in the Army.
I was. 7th Psychological Operations. We produced...
He's a spy.
No, we produced...
this isn't my real name, by the way.
Unfortunately, with a name like mine, I always say I'm not in the witness protection.
But you're a good candidate for it.
But so in the 7th Psychological Operations Group, we had probably, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 people who spoke Vietnamese, Japanese, all these different languages, and they produced programs that we then sent out as propaganda to Vietnam and to other areas. I didn't know any of what was being said, because we were just the facilitators of running the board while they produced these shows.
So you were on the production side of it in the Army.
The Army, but I also did a little bit of radio for AFRTS, and then it just was one of these things where because we were just sending these tapes out over and over, we were also part of the AFRTS system, so we got the latest records that came in. And those, you know what those are?
I remember records.
Okay.
Vinyl's made a huge comeback. My 16-year-old has a better vinyl collection than I did.
So, we got the records in, and that was great fun, because to kill time, you just played these records and, whiled away the time.
How did you end up in that unit? That seems very specialized.
When I went in, I went to the Defense Information School in Indianapolis and studied broadcasting, and then they probably figured, what can he do, or what kind of harm can he do? So psychological.
It's not going to kill very many people, so we're probably going to have to find something else for him.
Yeah. So I did that, and so that was on Okinawa. And then when I came back to the States, I was at Fort Riley in Kansas, and I worked sending people temporary duty. And so a thing came up for Kansas City, so I sent myself, which was, I thought, kind of noble.
No conflict of interest there.
I'm going to take this one for the team. I'm going to Kansas.
I'm going to Kansas City, because this was in Fort Riley. I mean, this was, far away from the big city. And so,
So you came out of the Army, you went back to Mr. Putnam.
Went back to Bill Putnam Station in Dayton, Ohio, and it was interesting there because he put this on the air hoping to get an affiliation. We were an independent station, and so we were really able to do whatever we wanted. So they developed this children's program, Clubhouse 22, with a character, Duffy the dog, and the host was Malcolm McLeod, he was great. I mean, he just had so much personality, and so he did that for a little while, and then he decided I want to do something a little bit more adult, and so he went over to Channel 2
and started doing porn.
And no, he did a talk show over there. So I started doing. Before I did Clubhouse, I was still in production. I was doing master control, loading films and commercials on the film chain. And I can remember saying to a friend of mine at the station, I said, I think I'd like to do something on air.
So you knew you wanted to be in front of the camera.
And the next week I was.
Wow.
They had a program that was called 22 Kadoo. And it was just playing games and running cartoons. And that was fun. And so then when Malcolm decided to leave, then I became the host of Clubhouse. And so I thought, you know what? It's now my candy store. I'm gonna change it. So had a live audience come in every day, little bleachers. We get maybe 30 kids.
Wow.
had a pick-a-door contest. Kids sent in a card with their name, address, and what door they wanted. And then this was a great way to display games from like Milton Bradley or, those other game makers. And they were happy to send in all that product.
Oh, yeah.
Free
promotion of 100%.
Yeah. So I did that for a long time.
So circa what year? If we may ask.
Color TV?
Yes.
It transitioned.
That's. I want to say the 80s. I don't know. Maybe it was before. But then, because they were trying to get the affiliation, I think, to ABC, they soon discovered that the station that did get it, there was a little shenanigans behind the scenes as to why that station got it
in our
rather
business?
Than us. Hard to believe.
That is shocking.
It is shocking.
Shocking, sir.
That's the big question on 60 Minutes. When Mike Wallace would, are you shocked? And of course they go, yes, I'm shocked.
I'm totally shocked.
And they go, yes, we're going to use that. But so
you should be shocked if Mike Wallace shows up at your door because you're in trouble.
That's true. But I just had such a great time in Dayton because it was one of those things where I could go into the station on a Saturday and do some production things because we had no money. The station had no money, but to try to make things look more big time than they were, and great people that I worked with,
and this led ultimately to you becoming joining the Hall of Fame for the Dayton area.
They asked me, to join. This was 2017. And so it was great fun. Went back to Dayton, and what was really nice is some of the people that I'd worked with were still there, and so to see them and to see where they've gone in their careers, it just what could be better?
Now, how long were you in Massachusetts growing up?
Oh gosh, until
he was grown.
Until I went in the until I went in the Army.
Because since then, you've traveled, you've moved many places.
Massachusetts, Dayton, Richmond, Virginia, Milwaukee, Las Vegas, Portland. Here. I might be missing one, but I don't think so. Yeah, I think that's it.
What was your favorite television gig over the years?
Actually, two of them. One was at a public station in Milwaukee. I got there, and then they said to me, "So, what do you want to do?"
Like, what did you hire me to do?
I know. Well, I thought, well, don't you know? So the weird thing is, I said, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to do a call-in program, and so we did. It was called Smith and Company. We did. It was every night. I think
that worked out good.
That was good. Because I could use my name.
Yes.
But so the thing is, we were on at 11 o'clock. I think it was 11 o'clock live. And then on Mondays, we were statewide. So we had to change things up. But we had a great team of producers and a unit that, we tried to do as many topical programs as we could that were in the news. Bess Meyerson was the very first guest. She was in town. And but I got to do the Great Circus Parade that was national for several years with Captain Kangaroo. Nice as could be.
He's my favorite all-time TV personality other than Johnny Carson.
I
spent so much of my childhood with Captain Kangaroo and Bun Bun.
Absolutely.
Mr. Green Jeans. You look like Mr. Green Jeans. If they did a reboot of Captain Kangaroo, you could totally...
I'm going for Captain Kangaroo, though. I've got the hair.
He was so nice and so genuine.
Bob Keeshan.
Yep. Yeah. So I got to do so many different things. Town halls. We did a whole series at Summerfest, which is, kind of like, a small Coachella, and did those live. Then we did a series of programs live at the State Fair. And
in public TV, you get the opportunity to do more long-form stuff.
Yes.
You have a lot more freedom, and that's. I imagine it. I've never worked on that side of it, but it.
Well, and so then going from that, then to commercial television, when I finally went to Las Vegas, that was a little bit more long form too, because I was co-anchoring and producing stories for a business program, and when I was in Portland at KGW. Then I was always asking producers for more time. And I said, but I know it's only 3 minutes, and they said, only? No, you got to cut that in half.
That's Eye on the Desert time.
Usually 3:30 for Eye on the Desert. I'm always asking my producers for more time for weather.
Exactly.
And it's really funny because now, and I overheard this by accident. I was not supposed to overhear this, but they were training a new producer, and they said, when you get to a minute, cue Patrick that he has 30. Because he'll always go 30 minutes. It's like, wow.
Oh.
It's like, is that right?
Oh, so now you know the tricks.
Yeah, but,
Yeah. But
they're not wrong.
No,
so,
that's
I didn't
true.
feel bad about it. They're not wrong.
No, and so because you know that, you even went longer, right?
Typically, just out of spite.
Yeah. I knew that about you.
You can only say it's hot so many times. You know?
For the record, we are recording this podcast on a day when we've already received 0.2 of an inch of rain. Oof. It's damn cold. We should be in parkas.
I know.
So you're full of
warnings.
phooey. That's what I say.
This reminds me of Portland, Oregon. I mean, it was
3
more
days
rain than
Portland. I'm just trying to make you feel at home.
I mean, with those cold days when you're out there carrying the tripod and you do,
what brought you? And I know Barbara told us, and we're just checking to see if your stories match. What brought you guys to the Coachella Valley?
Well, I took the road less traveled coming down here.
Called the 5. And then
Yes, to the Slauson cutoff.
Get out of your car, cut off your Slauson.
Can you hear this?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It was kind of at a point. I had worked in Portland. I left Portland. I went to Burlington, Vermont, for a couple of years. Went back to
about
Portland.
A cold place.
Oh gosh, the winters there brutal. Came back
summers
to
there
Portland.
aren't much warmer.
No. But then we decided, when it's time to, take it easy, we're going to do something warm. And we both had been down to the Coachella Valley to Palm Springs, and thought, well, let's give this a try. So I knew somebody here who I had worked with in Florida at Florida's news channel. I called him and I said, we're going to come down and just, kind of look around. Do you know of a realtor? So he knew of someone, so contacted him, came down. We gave ourselves a week, and so looked around, and then we said, okay, we like this particular place. We put a bid in on it, and so we're at a Denny's or something off the 10, getting ready to go back because we hadn't heard. And then he called and he said, yeah, you got it. So we, in anticipation of moving, had gotten our place in Portland area ready. So we put that up. You're not going to believe it. The first person who walked through bought it over asking. So how fortunate. So
they knew there was
that's
the home
exactly
of
what Barbara said. So
Yeah, that's good. And it was the home of a celebrity, and those always
Celebrity-owned always
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah.
But so we came down here, and I tell you, we ask each other, sometimes because we've lived all over the country, and it's kind of like, can you believe we're here? And
You still feel that way?
oh gosh, I mean, what's not to love? There is so much to do here.
And you guys are so involved. I mean, Barbara, she documents your travels and the events that you do very well.
Yeah.
And I get exhausted just looking at her Facebook page. You guys are all over. And I thought I used to do a lot of stuff. But man, you guys are
do.
everything.
Well, part of it, I think, is because I worked at KMIR with such a great group of people.
We'll edit that out.
We'll bleep that out. You just
I'll
All of a sudden, it sounds like
So, because of that, it gave access to, so many different things that go on here. But, my wife has a thing of, say yes. I mean, it's kind of like doing improv, say yes and so there's so much to do here, and it's, why not take advantage of it,
And how did the KMIR gig come about? Because you guys decided to move out here. It wasn't for a gig.
No, it wasn't.
It was just to come out and relax.
So I came down here, and while I were traveling, I was doing a piece for a friend of mine, Laura Porter, who I worked with at KGW, Anchor. I was putting her piece together for the Silver Circle Emmys. So I get down here and I realize, this is probably a little too long, and I need to tighten it up, and I need to retract some audio. So I call my friend who I worked with in Florida, who worked at KMIR, and Sean Harkness, and I said, can I stop in just to retract some audio? So I said, I can come in today, I can come in tomorrow. He goes, why don't you do it today? So I go to the station, he meets me at the door, and he says, today is my last day. And I said, oh, really? So he shows me around, I recut the audio, I meet, Gene Steinberg, the general manager, and other folks there. So I go home, I write a note to Gene, thanking him, for letting me use the facilities. And so then he puts me in touch with the news director. The news director gets in touch with me because I reached out. I said, I'd like to just, maybe work with the reporters, whatever. So he calls, and then I was going in, I think, like every Wednesday or something, and going out with the reporters and helping them with their stories, which was great fun. So then Trino Martinez, who was the assistant news director, says to the news director, what about pairing him up with Thalia in the morning? And so they said, he calls me in, and he says, what would you think about doing this? And I said, let me check with Barbara. And so, so I said yes. And so
Barbara said yes.
Yeah. And so, so I started with Thalia, and we had such a great team because nobody said no. If we wanted to try something, it was yes. And so if we wanted to take, the cameras outside, early in the morning, okay, we'll find a way to do it, Trino reminds me of a time that he brought a horse inside the studio. We could have done it outside, but no, let's bring the horse inside. Things like that just, it was a great time.
Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, well, the interview, and probably to keep the horse, calm and comfortable, which is...
Because every horse feels comfortable in a TV studio.
And to get up on the little stage.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, we overlapped for a time. I was on KESQ,
right.
as I still am.
Yeah. Oh, are you?
Yeah. I know you don't get up that early anymore, but I'm still...
It's 3 o'clock. Well,
I have to check when I get in. I have a confession.
Yes, what?
Because this was long before we met.
Yeah.
And you were just the guy who was anchoring the competing newscast. And it is truly a confession, because I feel because after a time and you had left, we got together and we had, we still get together for lunch every once in a while. But, and I think it is just good-natured newsroom ribbing. We like to poke a little fun at the competition.
Joe will tell you that when you're done with the story.
I'll be the judge.
One day, I went into my news director, and I said, I don't know if you've seen what they're doing on KMIR, but we need to duplicate this because it's gold. And she was like, what are they doing? I said, well, now, when they come back from a break, they let one of the guests wake Joe up.
Oh, really?
I've been carrying that burden, Joe.
I will make a note of that right now.
I've been carrying that burden.
Okay.
I just became your favorite podcast host.
Thank you so much.
Hey, now that he's gotten that off his shoulders,
I feel much better.
I want to ask you.
Joe didn't leave. He's not that
He
bad.
didn't leave. Well, you've got him locked in there on the
I
scene.
do.
That's funny.
Florida.
Yes.
One of my favorite writers is Dave Barry. And Dave has talked about that the most bizarre news stories he's ever seen come out of Florida. Did you experience any of those weird Florida type of things that you had to talk about?
Well, when I was in Florida, at Florida's News Channel, that was the time of the hanging chads.
Oh my God!
Yeah, you were very involved in covering that election.
Yes.
Where were you in Orlando?
We were in Tallahassee. Tallahassee.
And that was like a 24-hour...
It was, and it was statewide. They partnered with NBC affiliates across the state, and so we got their material, and then the producers made news wheels for Tampa, for Miami, for Sarasota, all those other markets, and but what was interesting about it is that the studios were all virtual, so the desk was blue, the walls were blue, and it was really kind of ahead of its time, because the technology looked good, and you know the sets looked great, and when you zoomed in, you got the different perspective and everything. The downside is because we were recording all of the stories, if they weren't on the mark, then you had to redo it. So you'd get through of a read and you go, it's a second over. So you got to redo it.
Oh.
So that was a bit frustrating. But they bought, it was like a 6-screen theater, gutted it, and had the newsroom, had 2 studios, offices, beautiful facility. But it just, it no longer exists. They tried it for several years. Then it was sold to someone else who created like a black news network. That was going for a little bit, and then finally, I think the whole thing just kind of folded. Probably ahead of its time.
That was a wild time.
Yes.
During the Bush-Gore election.
All of a sudden, you guys were at the center of the political universe.
Yeah, well, and interestingly, at different spots and in different times, like when I was in Burlington, Vermont, that was another election, and went down to New York to cover Hillary and Bernie Sanders, those two. What was interesting is when we would get back to Burlington and trying to get anything out of the Bernie Sanders folks, it was no-go. But yet he would talk to National without a problem.
Oh, he didn't want to talk
to
to
the locals, no, didn't want to have anything to do with this.
The man of the people.
Yeah. But yeah, Burlington's an interesting place. Absolutely beautiful during what they call leaf peeping season.
Right. Everybody goes up north.
They do. And actually, I went back not too long ago. One of my coworkers then, she met her future husband there while we were working all together, and she reminded me that I at that time said, I think there's something going on between these two, which I'd forgotten, but I got invited to the wedding.
Well,
so that was nice. Yeah.
On that note, we have to take a very quick pause and say thank you to our presenting sponsor, the McCallum Theater, McCallumtheater.org. Check it out. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff just recently added to the calendar. We'll take a brief pause and thank our friends at the McCallum.
The McCallum Theater's 2024-2025 season is on sale now. The world's top artists, from jazz, pop, classical, and comedy to the best of Broadway, only at the Valley's favorite place for great entertainment. Tickets are on sale now at the McCallum Theater box office, by phone, or online at McCallumtheater.org. Tickets sell quickly, so order yours today. A new, exciting season only at the McCallum. The McCallum Theater's 2024-2025 season is on sale now.
Thank you, McCallum Theater. We are back with our guest, Joe Smith, longtime broadcaster and wore lots of different hats over the years. I think you only gave me the one. I said, what were your 2 most fun gigs? You gave me the Dayton, those early days in Dayton. What was the second?
I liked, I loved what I was doing in Milwaukee for Smith & Company. And I loved what I did here.
It's kind of hard to pick. I mean, you I think have had in a lot of ways a very lucky career because you got kind of to pick the jobs you wanted to do. So it's hard not to have fun when you're doing that.
I did, and it's interesting you bring up the word luck. I was talking to somebody last night, and they mentioned luck, and I said, I don't know that there's anything such as luck, because if it's luck, it seems to me that you had nothing to do with it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tend to say, I've been fortunate.
You made your own luck.
Because if it's luck, it's like, well, we pulled the name out of the hat. Okay, you do it.
Well, but you had to put your name in the hat in the first place.
Well, absolutely. And if you don't ask, you don't get.
I want to get to a story that you told me. I think one of the first times we grabbed lunch together, and it's a personal story about you and your wife, because you guys have a very interesting backstory, because you dated for a while and then were not.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
So what did you do wrong, Joe?
Well, it was me. Yeah, I mean, I remember.
It wasn't you. It's not you. It's
no,
me.
it was me.
It was Joe.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm trying to piece it together now, because we had been going together for some time, and then, I thought, I don't know. And so.
But didn't you guys you bought a home?
Yes. So this is in Milwaukee, and so. She moves to Milwaukee, okay, and now she's moved in to this house that I just bought. And there was a point where I thought, oh my gosh, it was just overwhelming.
And it was Milwaukee.
And it was, well, no, but I love Milwaukee. But so then it was a case of saying, this isn't working.
After she moved, moved in with you.
Oh God, you're bringing it back. Oh,
I didn't. We can edit it all out if you don't want to talk about it.
No. But so she moves out, and then I'm thinking, what have I done? What have I done? So the woman who sold me my home, still great friends, sold Barbara her home. And so finally,
the home to which she escaped from your...
Yes.
Okay.
So after I woke up, I called her. I said, I made a mistake. I got to, and she said, well, I don't know.
It's a hard mistake to come back from.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's big, which is a testament to your guys' relationship. That's why I love this story.
Gosh. And so I decided to call her and ask her to go out to dinner. And I can remember the restaurant. I don't know the name of it. It may have been one that was at one time owned by the mob.
In Milwaukee?
Mob, yeah.
Come on.
Mob, no, the mob that was big there. But anyway, so then, things, got back to a little bit better. And then I finally, thought to myself, well, I gotta do something even more. So I can remember, I think we were in Shorewood, a suburb of Milwaukee. And I remember I asked her to marry me. We were just parked in the car. It was
oh my
you
God,
old romantic.
I know. And I had the ring.
Were you parking the car in a restaurant parking lot?
No. It was not even a going to for dessert or something. It was just a parking lot. I mean, I think I may have been just driving and thought, okay, here we go.
I got to
do this.
No, I love that story. Because it says an awful lot about you, but it says often a lot about her love for you.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, to come back, you reach a point where gosh, this isn't working out, and I'd really like you to move out. But then to be able to put that back together, now how long have you guys been together?
Oh gosh, we got married in 91.
Yeah.
Do the math.
And you're still friends with the realtor.
Oh, yes.
Made multiple commissions off of it.
She's got to love them. I mean, houses are moving like crazy.
A couple months later, are you two getting along?
No, but referrals.
Yeah.
Call Joe.
I mean, she's a great friend. And that's another thing that, for me, is wonderful. Every place that we've lived, we are in contact with with friends from all of those different places, and it just makes for such an interesting life of being able to catch up.
Of the places you've lived, obviously, and I feel the same way. This is my favorite. But if you had to go back,
go back.
If you had to pick a place that you lived previously,
wow. Boy, that's really a very tough one, because there was something wonderful I loved about Milwaukee. There was something we loved about Portland. Not much about Vermont or Florida or Richmond.
Really? Richmond?
So you've eliminated those three.
So those are off the list.
Yeah.
I got to tell you a Richmond story. So Richmond was for PM Magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so went down there, did an audition with, I don't know how many people. And so they paired me with Deborah Kent, who we got along great, and it was great fun. And so we had our little unit. And so most of the stations who did PM Magazine, they had a PM Magazine van. Yes. We had a station wagon. And so you would do the ins and outs, the wraps, in one day. So you'd have all your changes of clothing, for 5 shoots, and then all the equipment, and then myself and Deborah, camera person, and I think maybe a production helper. And so we're in this brown station wagon driving around doing our thing.
With a magnet that says PM
magnetic sign on the door.
It didn't even have that.
Do you remember which station that was?
It was WXEX. It's now WRIC.
That's right.
Yes.
Because I grew up in Charlottesville, and we got the Richmond station, so I watched WXEX as a kid.
Okay, so
I still know a couple of weather guys there.
Well, one of them went to WGN. I can't think of his name, but yeah, he did all right for himself. But so after I left, Matt Lauer replaced me.
Wow.
Yes.
Matt Lauer replaced Joe Smith. Breaking news.
Yeah, so that was interesting. So Richmond was, it just was, and while I was there, we had one of the biggest snowstorms. And I can remember, actually walking through the snow to get to the Safeway to then get back to my apartment, because, of course, they don't plow because,
Yeah,
it doesn't rain,
but snow is not all that common in Richmond. So
No?
Yeah.
No. It's so Richmond is really closer to the coast. Like in Charlottesville, we'd get snow pretty regularly. But the farther you got to the coast, and so probably not a lot of snow. But it's an interesting city. It's a capital city. There's a lot of stuff going on in Richmond.
I have found, though, capital cities are usually not the most exciting when you get right down to
they're
it.
full of politicians.
Yeah, I mean, like Columbus, Ohio.
Sacramento.
Not the most exciting, I don't think. But yeah, Richmond, Virginia, interesting time.
My favorite restaurant, Davis on Main in Richmond, is a really great restaurant.
How do you remember that?
We
have a new sponsor.
It could be a sponsor. Brought to you by Davis on Main.
So we're remiss on one thing.
Yeah.
You're a multiple Emmy winner.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Can you talk about those?
One of them
Well, they're shiny and they're gold.
Yeah, I know you know what they are. But for those of us who haven't enjoyed it.
So one of them was for writing. For when I was in Portland, and another one was for Smith & Company. I had done a program, it was called Bah Humbug, and we had on somebody who just didn't want anything to anything religious for the holiday, and was really adamant about it, and so it was an interesting conversation, and people, had great calls that came in, kind of challenging this person who, it was their belief, and that's fine. But it was also so stark, and so we submitted that, and that was for the Chicago chapter, and so Barbara and I went down to the awards, and it was, I was surprised as anybody. When you've got Chicago involved and all that, so that was a thrill. It was it was interesting for the Portland one for writing, because at some point, if you have to sit down to write, to me, that I thought was the hardest thing to do. And then it became actually one of the most rewarding things, to be able to tell a story, to maybe have some humor in it, some heart.
Say what you want to say.
Yes,
yeah.
I won one for that, and that was probably one that I, probably cherish, most of all. Yeah. So.
One thing I think that you guys have done exceptionally well, which I think is exceptionally difficult. You both are professionals. You both have done television, and I know Barbara had such a fascinating career outside of her TV work as well.
Oh, yeah.
But two really strong professional careers that you've somehow managed to work together and stay basically in the same place. And
yeah.
I mean, I think that's a real challenge.
Well, but she, at one point, I think she was done with television. And it was, she didn't look to the rearview mirror. I mean, she just was like, okay, I'm done with this. And so, she, I think she may have told you that, she was doing, PR for the IRS.
Yes.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Yeah.
So she, but she's been able to, to make her own path, with theater and with the PR Society of America and all of that.
Have you considered following her onto the stage?
We, we may be doing something at Revolution.
Really?
Together. But, I think my part might be recorded. So we were on the stage together in, I think, Dayton. I think we did a couple of things there. I did cabaret. I played, I don't know. Forgot the character name, but I took singing lessons because I had to sing. You can sing. I like to sing, but But so we did a thing for Desert Theatricals that we actually it was on air. It was a kind of a radio broadcast of It's a Wonderful Life when I was at KMIR. So. So we've done a few things together.
Do you miss being in front of the camera?
A little bit. It's just it's fun, and I think somebody told me it's like the ship of misfits. That if they had to get a real job, it'd be really.
So we're the island of misfit toys for 100% sure.
But it isn't. I mean, it's kind of
Well, I think that's what captivated me when I was a 16-year-old kid and walked into a TV station. It's like there is this incredible cast of characters.
Yes.
And I don't know that any of them could work 9-to-5 jobs and hold them.
Well, you probably would be bored, if you had to go in and sit down and couldn't leave that desk and.
One of the things that I still love about the business is the deadline. I was always driven by deadline. And I know that you've done some work where the deadlines are a little bit different, but there's always still that, because at some point, whatever you're doing, we got to get this. Now we have to get it on the air.
Yeah.
So you got to be done.
And there's no turning back. Mm-mm. And as the business changed, and then you start at 4:00, and then you've got to go out and do something. Oh, and we'd like you to be live in the noon. So you got to have a little bit for that, or you went out and did your story, and then you get a call from the news director and say, you know what, we need you to go and talk to so-and-so about this or that. That's now more important.
But I think it teaches people so many skills, because you have to be so flexible, and you have to be able to cover any number of topics and have a working knowledge so that you can do a decent job covering the story. I think it's a really important experience, even if you go on to do something different.
I think so, too. I think they're transferable skills.
100%.
But since I've been down here and Barbara's been involved in so many shows, I'm doing some LIR. They call it learning in retirement. I call it learning is rewarding. I don't like to use the word retired, so those are interesting classes. I'm taking one, the history of Jews, another one about negotiations, and taking Spanish for the second time.
Well, I hope it sticks this time.
I'm also doing
dos time.
The dos.
We're now done with my Spanish.
But I'm also doing the Duolingo. Have you done
Duolingo,
I'm
yeah.
doing that too. And also improv. Have you ever done improv?
Yeah, a little. It's fun.
Oh my gosh, it's
Who are you
the
doing
best.
it with?
With Melanie Blue.
Yes, Melanie was on Eye on the Desert. Talk about her improv class.
Absolutely, without a doubt, the best. It's so much fun, and it's so cathartic.
A great friend of mine is in that class with you, Valerie McClure.
Oh my gosh.
You guys must have such a great time.
Oh, I
together.
love her.
Yeah.
She and everybody comes to play, and you can do no wrong,
And it's such great mental exercise.
Oh, to then, I'll never forget, we were doing it at another center for a while, and it was kind of one of those things where you are on stage and go. And it's like,
What?
okay. I'm here to tell you a story. I mean, unbelievable. You have to be so present and listen and listen and listen. And she's a great teacher. So.
And are you good with the trajectory of where you're headed right now, or is there something
I don't know.
more?
Now that's an interesting question. I don't know where I'm headed. Have you thought to yourself of, I think I want to do that, or I want to go down this path?
Yeah,
I don't think
I can't
that.
hit the curveball. So
Yeah.
I'm never going to be a Major League Baseball player.
Okay, but you know that.
You had your shot, Fresno College.
Well, I got cut from the team and left school soon after.
Well, I was
And it was Fresno City College.
I'm sorry, Fresno City College.
I was on.
It's the city that answers itself, Fresno.
Jeez. When I was a kid, I tried out for the Union Federal baseball team, and I was horrible, and never really got picked too often. And when I did, they just kind of knew, oh, well, this is going nowhere, but that's okay. We have to give everybody a chance.
You get a participation trophy.
And we're going to give you a participation trophy for your efforts today.
Thank you.
No, you were phenomenal. Thank you for being a great guest.
This was fun.
And thanks for letting us ask personal questions.
Oh, yeah.
Confess my sins.
And I can tell you now, no, we don't edit.
Do you know my lawyer?
Vinny,
I think it begins
Dewey
with
Cheatham
a
and
7.
Howe.
do we cheat him and how?
I thought I had final approval. No?
Did
Sure.
you?
No? Was I dreaming?
When you listen, once it
And
drops,
you will.
and you don't like stuff, just send us an email. And we'll,
We get those off. Jason Stewart writes to us weekly.
Oh.
Jason loved his performance on our podcast.
Did he?
Yes, that's what I understood. Feel certain he did. Joe Smith, thank you. Phenomenal guest. Great to have you.
My pleasure.
On behalf of John McMullen, our producer, Randy Florence, our great co-host and sidekick, I'm Patrick Evans. This is Big Conversations Little Bar. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Our thanks to Skip Page for letting us take up some very nice real estate in his bar. And also, of course, to the McCallum Theater, our presenting sponsor. And we'll see you next time on another edition.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Big Conversations Little Bar. Recorded on location at Skip Page's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California, and presented by the McCallum Theater, online at mccallumtheater.org. This program is a production of the Mutual Broadcasting System. All episodes are available from BigConversationsLittleBar.com and most major podcast portals.
Meet your neighbors, fascinating and grand. Each conversation, a wave on the sand. Raise your glass and join the ride, where stories and dreams fully collide. At Big Conversations Little Rick and Randy, tales retold.